The other is type, which is more of a way of distinguishing um, specials in sales. Isn't that a good way to describe types, Joe?
Uh, yeah, I wouldn't even go that far. Actually, Crooks, if you just give me control real quick, can I just grab
Oh,
control?
yeah.
I'll do it real simple. There's a couple of things that you may want to do as far as, do I
Oh,
got
you know, your
control?
screen just disappeared on my computer. 1 second. Let me see what happened. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, I see it now.
Crooks, do I have control? Yeah, right? All right, so there's a couple of ways we can approach this. And what we're basically saying is, look, you know, how do, how much time are we going to invest and where's the return for us, right? So
Right.
the problem is when I look at it initially, it looks to me like your sales order entry program, which is the most used program in any distributor, is kind of far off the mark of where they would want. And you might say, well, why do you say that? Well,
Right.
first and foremost, take a look at our screen here. It looks like a handwritten sales order, where
Right.
I can say I want one half-inch copper fitting. Now, I can absolutely navigate at the speed of the user. I can say I want one D400, and whatever he asks me for, I can move at exactly his speed, right? If he says to me, I didn't want one, I wanted two, I can just come up here and change that to two and come down. Now, I don't expect you to be able to have that user experience. I don't, because
Right.
it'll be way too hard for me to say to you, I would like to see what you see is what you get,
Right.
environment. But from a pricing point of view, I do want to be able to come down and say, all right, how did we calculate the selling price here? Let's give this guy list less 10 and a 5, and let's give this guy, replacement cost plus 25. Now,
Mhm.
if you were able to do that, just that simple exercise,
Mhm.
then I'd know, okay, you want to entertain distribution. Croker, I would even say, let's not even entertain the matrix just yet. Just the custom capabilities of saying, this guy really needs list with a multiplier of 0.987, or this guy needs, list minus 10%,
Uh
or
huh.
this guy needs list plus 10%, or this guy needs cost plus 30%, or this
Right.
needs cost with a true margin of 30%. And the
Mhm.
math is real simple. It's minus times plus divide and GP. Now, if you wanted to get even fancier, we could say, well, if you were in certain views, right, like if I was looking at the margin view, where I'm seeing the selling price and cost, I can come over here and say,
So is
let's
this
make,
right now? This is a like a client server product.
Yes.
yeah, there
Okay.
is, there, well, it's, there's a smart, there's a piece of software that is residing on the client.
Okay.
But I would like that same experience in a browser UI as well.
Right. And what is the typical? Just so I understand, like how many SKUs would a typical distribution company have? Like, is it
50,000 in the warehouse.
50,000. I mean, stock keeping units would be probably actual stock keeping units would be about maybe 10 to 30,000 in their product file of what they've sold, probably 100,000, and in their catalog about a half a million.
okay?
Now, the smaller guys, everything you can amp down. So
Hmm.
I understand if you're saying, what about a small electrical supply house? Well, they're still going to have about 5,000 that they definitely have stock keeping units,
Hmm.
even in the smallest of supply houses. They
Right.
may not go up to that half a million and,
Hmm.
and embark on all of the potential catalog, but that 5,000 would go to 50,000 anyway.
Right. Okay. So from here, they basically on the screen they pulled up a customer, the bill to ship to.
Yes.
The first thing is enter a quantity. That's how they start the process.
Absolutely. When someone comes to a counter, they say, I want 5 half-inch copper 90s. They don't say, I want half-inch copper 90s and then 5 of them.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not worried about getting you to do that because you're going to have some major issues on that as well. In
Right.
other words, because the guy's going to say, eventually I'm going to say to you, the guy wants 6 feet, 2 inches of pipe, and you need to be able to type in the unit of measure of where its actual,
Right.
you know, fractional, and not fractional meaning point, but disparate units of measure, so you can speak in the empirical system with pipe if you want to get into pipe valve and fitting space.
Okay.
Don't worry, no one does that except Eclipse.
Okay.
But and don't worry about the UI. I recognize you're not going to be able to have such an easy to use UI.
Right.
But what you would absolutely need to be able to do is to just say at the absolute basics, okay, this guy's selling price here is going to be 10% off of list.
Okay.
And I wasn't able to see you do that.
Right.
And you said, no, I was able to do that. Well, not really. You aren't.
Right.
Because I want to be able to say not 10% discount. I want to say plus 10%. In other words, I want to be able to do a math formula from
Right.
this starting basis field to
Mhm.
this line item. And I want that math formula to potentially be different on this item.
Okay. So Joe, at this level, they're not deciding like where they're pulling this inventory from. They're just putting an order from in, right? They don't care.
So they've already answered where they're pricing it from as well as where they're shipping it from. But if you want to get really complicated, this can balloon into complications that you're eventually going to have to get to, where let's say I put in 10 half-inch copper 90s, and what I really don't want is 10 half-inch copper 90s. You said, yeah, but the guy asked for 10 half-inch copper 90s. Well, he wants some of the 10-inch copper 90s today, but he wants some a month from today. In fact, he wants some a month after that.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in now a series of dates, and he wants some a month after that. Now, this I don't expect you to do at all. It's one of the things, though, that Chuck said, one of the things that we recognize that's different about Eclipse versus other products is
Right.
guy's coming down here and he says, I want one of these today. I want 2 of these a month from today. I want, the remaining 7 on another day. I'm going to go down to this and change this to be 8/18, right? Which will then say, okay, I want some of these on 8/18. By the way, this one here is going to be shipped out of branch 2. This one here is going to be direct ship. And I'm going to direct ship that. I can't see my screen.
So what is, I see the ship date. What does required date mean?
The person requires the material versus the date you're going to ship it.
Okay.
So
Think
now,
about it in terms of a construction job with a lot of employees that are specialists that are going to show up on a day that they need to perform their tasks.
Right. Okay.
So what I have going on now here is I have one line item on this sales order. Guy asked for 10 half-inch copper 90s. However, one of the things that I didn't see with you is the ability to do this type of scheduling. I didn't expect to have that.
Right.
To schedule the transaction.
Yeah.
So that even though it's 10 of these, it's actually going to be scheduled over multiple shipments.
Okay.
Some stuff we may say is going to get picked up right now today. Other stuff is going to be shipped on a specific date of, I don't know, 7/18.
Okay.
Other stuff is, now this is a big, big change. I don't even want you to entertain it.
Right.
To me, if you could entertain just the simple pricing example that I did, then I'll know you got some skin in the game.
Okay.
And then some of it's going to be direct.
Right.
Now you might say, yeah, but what's so difficult about this? It's now got to be smart enough to commit this inventory that even though it asked for 10, I'm only committing 1 for today's date,
Right.
committing 2 for 7/18. It has to know if the lead time means to commit the stuff that's on the shelf or not, 3 for 8/18. In other words, one of the things that you're eventually going to have to get to if you're going to want to trump Eclipse is you're going to have to be able to rethink all of your data and evaluate your data as a function of time. Can you in your system show me how much a customer owes you? So you see this customer owes you $39,000. Can you do that?
Yes.
Can you do this and say, yeah, but I want to show you how much he owed you on January 17th of 1995, and it'll change this screen in a real-time fashion of January 17th, 1995, and it'll change this screen to what he owed you as of that date.
Um, right now, I could pull a report. Just like I'd have to change the date for an AR report with a single customer, but theoretically, it's possible. It just might not be as clean as this. But
Right.
in theory, we can reconstruct based on a date. Just like a balance sheet or
Right.
okay. So yeah, so we could definitely that's something that is possible also. How would the customer typically want to see that? Would he want to see? Is that just so he has the historic information? Hey, as of this date, you owed
No.
me so much. Or?
Every single time a person's speaking to a customer on the phone, they're speaking about their account as of the end of some accounting period.
Okay.
So they might be looking at their account as of December 31st.
Okay.
So they have a statement in their hand, so the person can reset the account very quickly and work on the account as to what it was as of that point in time.
Okay. So because we didn't ship the product out, you don't owe us for that, but you owe us for everything else, right? So.
No, because the terms are Proc's terms. The people that we sell to, distributors sell to, are very disorganized.
Okay.
So instead of managing, it's like my brother-in-law.
Uh-huh.
My brother-in-law swipes his credit card all the time, and he just pays a statement. He doesn't look at every individual invoice or ticket from his credit card.
Right.
These contractors, they're not looking at every shipment. They're getting a statement at the end of the month, and then they're working off of that statement. So when
Okay.
they call the supply house, they have a statement in their hand, not the invoices, and they want to speak to them logically about the statement. Well, they're calling them on the 25th because the bill is due for the month prior, and you need to be able to very quickly go back in time and see what the account was at that point in time,
Okay.
excluding any payments that happened this month, excluding any shipments that happened this month.
Okay.
Now, I don't expect you to do that either. What I'm showing you is you're probably saying, oh, there's a very vast difference. In other words, without coming off too harsh,
Sure.
there's a big, big difference between what I've seen
Right.
and what you need if you were going to try to approach Eclipse. Now, I don't think you're trying for that, nor would I recommend you to.
Right.
There's no possible way that what I've seen, you're even remotely close to the same thought process as Eclipse was built.
Right.
And I would say go after the low end.
Right.
But on the low end, what they would still need is that capability to have a pricing and a pricing that's really simple, that when they put a line item on a sales order, they can choose that monetary value, that basis field, which you have redefined, and you said I can name them anything I want, and that's great. We'll call them A, B, C. We'll call them column 1, 2, 3. We'll call them list, cost, whatever. And, of course, I would prefer you to have more than 3, but 3 is okay. It's a good starting point. I want to be able to choose one of them and do a discount, or choose one of them and do a math formula. And a math formula is real simple. It's plus, minus, times, divide. And if you could show me that you can do that in, say, by August, I'd be like, all right, this guy really wants to listen to us. He wants to get engaged. And then I would say, now how do we work together, and what does BDL get out of it? Because our knowledge base is second to none.
Sure.
So it's worth value. It's worth no money. How much is it worth? How much equity do we get in the final product when it's sold?
Right.
Because
Yeah, definitely. And I want to make sure it makes sense for you guys, right? You're investing time, so I think both Robert and I understand that. So we definitely would.
we have the knowledge, and we'll be at times somewhat, it's tough because you're the developer, and you'll come back with stuff, and I'll be like, no, it's just not right.
Sure.
In other words, what it does matters substantially more than how you build it.
Right.
So screens, there's a lot of noise on those screens. We'll say scrape it all out. But anyway, the simplest thing, the nice starting point is say, okay, I heard the guys at BDL, and what they're telling me is they want to be able to put in a sales transaction. They want to be able to put in a sales order where I identify who it is. Now, the searching on this identification, we can talk about a little bit more. Kroger, I don't know if I lost control or not. And what they want. Now, don't even worry about, hey, I balloon open that big screen. I don't care.
Mhm.
I want to be able to say to you, okay, great. How do I actually identify that I want to use what you were calling distribution, right?
Mhm.
Or we'll call it whatever. Here's mine that I have listed. You called one MSRP, and I want to give it not MSRP, but MSRP less 10.
Okay.
Or I want to give it MSRP plus 2.5.
Okay.
And there's a difference between plus 2.5, right, and plus 2.5.
Right. So in this, is there any number right now on your basis, which is, I'm guessing, like for us, it's like our price list 1, 2, and 3. Is there
Yeah,
any
so
limit to the basis types, or is it just open?
we're not limited. So what we do is when you define a group of products, you identify all of the basis fields that you want in that group, and it's unlimited in the naming. So, for example, Delta Faucets, I can list how many basis fields I want to have on that group of products. And when I assign a product to that group,
Mm-hmm.
it knows that it's going to have this list of basis fields.
Okay.
But I think a nice test is real simple. I want to be able to put a product on a sales transaction, choose one of the basis fields, and then do a math formula,
Yeah.
plus, minus, times, divide. If you could take it home and do that, then I'll know, hey, this guy really wants to change things.
Okay.
How do we move forward as far as teaching you about distribution and about what the software needs,
Okay.
and what do we get out of it?
Yeah. No, that'd be great. We have our notes here. I can. But what I'll do first is once we define what the screens will look like, I'll just send a document before we start building anything, so you guys can approve it before we do the development. And then, realistically, definitely with all the other things we're doing, August I could get something to show you guys. That shouldn't be a problem. I'll aim for sooner, but that's definitely doable. Can I ask a question, Joe? I saw all those different like you could break up the schedule of the shipping. What does a pick list look like?
The pick list is only the stuff that's going to be picked at that shipment.
Okay, so can you just show me how that? I'm just curious. So essentially, that one order broke into like numerous pick lists based on the ship date. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. He puts the stamp and actually sends it to the printer the day it's supposed to be picked, and the warehouse guys just do what they're supposed to do. Nobody else gets involved.
Okay. Okay. So in the beginning of the morning, someone goes and prints all the pick
No,
lists.
they print automatically.
Yeah, they're automatically queued from the system.
Okay, so in the morning, someone just picks them off the printer.
Yeah.
They walk around, and as soon as their pick gets on the printer, they start working on it. Now in the RF environment, it just shows up on guns.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I think we could definitely. And as far as from our screen perspective, the flow of that POS system is the faster type of method, right? That I showed you. You'd prefer that
Yes,
type of.
definitely.
Okay.
I mean, you can see mine was a lot like that, except, the edit capability. You should be able to edit it like an Excel spreadsheet. You should be able to
Right.
just go up and down the cells, type them in, and,
Okay.
and that's the beauty of it.
Right. Okay.
The real problem there probably has to do with your data structures, and you're storing your data probably as an order file and then separate files, separate tables for your line items,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to like an XML blob where you have all of the line items jammed into one XML blob, which allow you to freely move it around. Because you're doing 11 writes, I don't even know this, but I would guess on a 10-line item order, you're doing 11 writes, one
Uh-huh.
for the header and one for each line item. That is your Achilles heel. But I
Right.
understand why you did it if you're a SQL guy.
Right.
But B, it would be so much faster if you had done it as one write and embed the array into the header. You follow me what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So you are 11 writes, right?
Actually, I'm not sure if we are or not, but I'll ask our DBA. And they decided that long before I even got involved
I
in
understand. I totally get it. Believe me, everyone does 11 writes except for Eclipse.
Okay.
And everyone says Eclipse is wrong, except for the people who use Eclipse. So
Right.
I totally get that debate.
Right.
But, you know, if you want to talk to me about it and we can banter back and forth why, I could be convinced that 11 writes are faster now with
Okay.
solid-state drives and in-memory databases.
Right.
But I would then say, okay, you still need this flexibility. Are you going to get that?
Right.
The problem with the multiple writes is you get data starts to get away from each other, and it's like herding cats to keep it in. Where I have it all in one read, on one record, it's a little bit more contained.
Right.
But I really will help you in your journey.
Okay.
And I don't want to sound like an asshole, so I hope this next statement doesn't come off bad. I'm not going to do it if there's nothing in the game for BDL. So we have to come up with a creative way that BDL sees some return.
Sure.
And our knowledge of distribution is second to none. And believe me, NetSuite would pay me a shitload of money, and they offered me a shitload of money to give this knowledge to them.
Right.
So, you know, let's figure out if you can pass this test, and I can see that you're really interested, and if you are, then let's figure out how do we make it a win-win for both entities.
Yeah, definitely. And I wouldn't, quite frankly, I wouldn't even ask you guys to help if there was
I
no
know.
win on your side. So.
I get it,
So-
and that's awesome.
Okay.
Hey, you're a friend of Kuz, so you're a friend of Kuz, you're a friend of ours.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. And Brandon, is Brandon there also? Brandon's there still, right?
Yeah, Brandon.
Okay. And Brandon might have fallen asleep now. He might get bored.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay.
No,
Cool.
I'm going back to school, man. I'm learning all kinds of great stuff from Joe and Jeff and Chuck and everybody.
Cool. Yeah, I can tell there's a lot of knowledge here, so that's awesome. So we'll definitely I'll get a document together most likely by the end of next week, and we'll send it over with what we understand and what we're going to work on as that initial test. And then if there's anything like really wrong, just let us know. So once that's like in the right direction, we'll just get our developers to work on it and put it in a demo server that's just like a development environment where we can play around and make that work.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay. Cool. Hey, I really appreciate you guys. So I really wanted to see what it looks like, and I get a better idea of like some of the problems and the needs. So that helps us a lot. I'm sure I know more than I did when we started, but I still know very little. So that's cool. Okay, Robert. I think Robert's been on here. Robert, are you there? I see his name. So, anyways, he may be on, he may not be. I see his name there. So, Robert's one of the partners in Averiware. So, and he actually took the solution and we made a vertical for the fitness centers, and that was acquired by a small OTC company for stock. So, who knows what that is? So, okay, cool, guys. Thanks so much. Is there anything else, Ku, that we should talk about or go over?
I'm good. I'm good. Just get that document to Koo and me and Chuck and Joe as soon as you can, Manuel.
Okay.
So that we can look over it, frame it, and then set some dates
Okay.
in there. And we can maybe do another call, get a progress report, in 2-3 weeks.
Okay,
That's
cool.
what I'd like to see.
Yeah, so I definitely by the end of next week, I'll get the document with some screens for you guys, and then
Okay.
you can look at it and get your feedback to us after I send it to you. Okay. Okay, cool. Hey, I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. All right. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
So everyone's gonna get updated, right, with these changes?
Well, yeah. So what I want to do is, I want to, like, first, I didn't know how to. I didn't know if I'm recording it or not, so I was like, oh, okay.
I'm sure
Hopefully
you
it
did, yeah.
recorded. I did.
2 minutes,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm gonna end it F10.